my favorite memories of Edge's career was him and Christian winning the tag team titles for the first time in that ladder match at WrestleMania. And I remember at that time, it wasn't really popular to be an Edge fan yet, because him and Christian were just seen as like the pretty boys, and most people thought the Hardys were so much cooler. Man, that seems like a long time ago. But even back then, I knew Edge had something. There was just something about this guy that I liked, and fast forward to 2011, and he's one of my all-time favorites. And I guess it wasn't really surprising that this happened. I mean, the guy is really beat up, and he's been talking retirement for a while now. So it didn't really come as a shock, but I didn't think it was going to be this soon. I thought he'd have at least another year. And I'm not going to lie, I'm sad about this. I mean, Edge is one of those guys who, no matter what was going on in his personal life, no matter how many injuries he was working with, he always went out there and gave everything that he had. So not only did I love the guy as a talent, I respected the hell out of him too. And the business is much worse off for having lost Edge, because he's one of the best. And it sucks that he didn't get to end things on his terms. But what an amazing run he had. I mean, so many great moments. The live sex celebration, spearing Mick Foley through the flaming table. Man, oh man, I could go on and on. And the silver lining here is that he went out while he was still great. I mean, just like Shawn Michaels, his legacy is secure. It won't be tainted by him staying too long and risking serious injury and still wrestling when he's a shell of his former self, like some other people I could mention. And, I mean, he'll be remembered much more fondly because of that. I mean, thank you, Edge, indeed. I mean, I miss him already. So, congratulations on a great career, Edge. And that's all I've got to say about that. Okay, as far as go-home shows are concerned, TNA has done a lot worse than this one. They managed to hype up almost every match on the pay-per-view in some way, though unsurprisingly, the X Division Escape match was never even mentioned. They couldn't even bother to talk about it when they were running down the card for the pay-per-view. Now, why on earth anyone would book a match for one of their biggest pay-per-views of the year and then not promote it, I don't know. Of course, I don't know why TNA does a lot of the things they do, but let's not get into that again. The first segment saw the return of the much-maligned opening Immortal promo. Thankfully, they kept it to within 10 minutes this time. They've been a little better about that recently. Though, one of these days, I would really like to see an Immortal promo where someone other than Bischoff and Hogan do all the talking. But this was fine for what it needed to do. They're doing this storyline where they're trying to find a replacement for Jeff Hardy, which is smart because Immortal is nothing but a mid-card faction without a big star. No, Hogan doesn't count. The segment was alright. Although there was this one part that was as disturbing as it was unintentionally hilarious, when the 60-plus-year-old Hulk Hogan, dead seriously mind you, referred to himself as a Mama Jamma. I could have lived the rest of my life without hearing that and died a happy man. Mama Jamma? Hogan says this out loud and no one bothers to make fun of him for it? Where's Chris Jericho when you need him? We had some wrestling this week, I will say that. Was all of it good? No. As usual, the booking got in the way a lot of the time. They had this Four Corners match with the people in that completely random tag team match at Lockdown. It was Crimson, yay, Doug Williams, Jesse Neal, and Orlando Jordan. Ha-ha! Now, while this match is happening, not only is most of the focus on Scott Steiner and Shannon Moore getting into it outside the ring, but then Abyss shows up and attacks Crimson as well. Because one distraction from the match just wasn't enough. They had to throw two of them in there, because in TNA, what happens in the ring doesn't matter apparently. Then they had Orlando Jordan win the match by pinning Doug Williams.
You people are fools!
Please join me as I hope and pray that this means that Jordan and Eric Young will not win the match at Lockdown this Sunday. The Abyss Crimson thing, on the one hand, I'm glad they didn't just drop it, because Crimson did pretty much try to murder Abyss with Janice, and I'm happy Crimson finally has a feud, but on the other hand, I'm not happy the feud is with Abyss. Hogan just loves this Joker for some reason, and his efforts to turn Abyss into TNA's John Cena have completely ruined this guy as a character. And no one feuds with Abyss and gets anything out of it. All he does is bury people. Reference Desmond Wolfe, reference the Pope, so I'm happy they're doing something with Crimson. I'm just worried that they're going to blow what they have with this guy before he even has a chance to do anything. They had a best 2 out of 3 series to determine who gets the man advantage for Lethal Lockdown. It ended after 2 matches because Immortal won both of them. Don't like that. And really don't like Kaz jobbing to Matt Hardy, because Kaz is the X Division champion, and they really just made the X Division escape match at Lockdown look pointless, because realistically, Matt Hardy should be the #1 contender for the title now, even though I hope he isn't. And honestly, I'm starting to wonder why Kaz is still the X Division champion, because he hardly ever competes in the X Division. He barely even mentions it anymore. They need to work on that. The match is decent, though. James Storm and Abyss was good, too. They had another segment where they were going absolutely nuts with the pumped-in crowd noise. And God knows they need canned heat during a Madison Rayne segment, but this just demonstrated how badly they're using it. Madison's cutting her typical screechy promo where she's trying to act all badass and failing miserably because she's about 5 feet tall, weighs maybe 100 pounds, and doesn't look like she can kick Hornswoggle's ass, much less anyone else's. And you hear all these boos coming from nowhere, even though you can plainly see the crowd is just sitting on their hands. Then Tara takes the mic, and the crowd starts actually reacting. You can hear them chanting Tara's name. You see them chanting Tara's name. And yet, you still hear all this artificial heel heat. They have to cool it with that because it just comes off terribly. Then Mickie James comes out and you see and hear a real crowd response for her, just like Tara got. Acceptable final hype for that match, I guess, and I'm very glad they didn't have to cancel it. I'm looking forward to finally getting that long overdue title change. Am I looking forward to the match itself? No. Mickey's working with an injury, and Madison sucks, but if they get the belt off Madison finally, it'll all be worth it. They had a 6-man tag match that was alright. Naturally, about half of it took place during the commercial break, but what we saw was fine. And there was this one really funny part, where Kurt Angle chased the Jarretts into the parking lot, and then Jeff pissed himself and drove off without Karen. That was funny. That might have been the first and only genuinely entertaining thing Karen has done in this company, getting ditched by her husband because he's a pussy. Then they had a segment for the Velvet Angelina Winter thing. Still not liking this storyline at all. It's campy and stupid. It's an idiotic way to split up the beautiful people. I've said that before. And any feud with Velvet Sky as the main protagonist is going to be a complete waste of time because you know any matches that come out of it are going to be lousy. And none of these women are booked for the pay-per-view either. So I don't know what the hell they were doing on the Go Home show. This segment should have been given to the guys in the X Division escape match. The writers needed to do something to hype that thing, but they just forgot about it. Then the main event was Ken Anderson in an Immortal Gauntlet match. And you know those guys that just last week Hogan told us were completely worthless? That's who they put in this thing. Anderson has to go through 4 guys. Murphy gets in the ring and he sucks. Anderson pins him. Then Rob Terry gets in the ring and he sucks. Anderson pins him. Then Gunner gets in the ring. He does slightly better than those first 2 losers, but yeah, he pretty much sucks too. Anderson pins him. Then Bully Ray comes out and he does all the real work for the heels. Not a good main event, but at least it wasn't 2 minutes long. So that was the Go Home show. I guess it was passable for what they wanted to do, but the Velvet Angelina Winter thing should not have been there, and they needed some hype for the X Division escape match, which we did not get. So Lockdown is this Sunday. Am I looking forward to it? Somewhat. Some of the matches should be good as long as the writers don't overbook the piss out of them. But more than anything, I'm looking forward to a lot of these feuds just being over and done with. Pope Samoa Joe can't end soon enough. Morgan Hernandez has done nothing. They've gone as far as they can with Angle Jarrett. Mickey Madison, for God's sake, just get the belt off Madison Rayne so her no-talent ass can go back to jobbing on Explosion where she belongs. But I'm looking forward to the escape match. Lethal Lockdown should be good as long as Hogan doesn't interject himself again. And I think the main event will be acceptable if they just let the match play out and don't do any stupid swerves. So Lockdown could be decent. The thing is, that's also the night that Game of Thrones premieres on HBO. So I might watch that instead and catch Lockdown later. Sorry, TNA, but you want me to watch your pay-per-view while it airs? After Victory Road, that's a privilege you're gonna have to earn back. Later.